Our lives are laid out on a road of bumps, turns, struggles, and more. How do we respond? How do we endure adversity for learning and growth? I'm Aubrey Johnson, and we'll explore these questions and more on the Road to Rediscovery. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Road to Rediscovery. I'm your host, Aubrey Johnson. The Road to Rediscovery is about reflecting on life lessons to learn and grow from them and to take it to the next level and help others who are struggling through dark times. Now, as you know, on the Road to Rediscovery, we are very passionate about delivering quality content that is of value to you and your personal growth. If you like what you hear on the show, please visit roadtorediscovery.com/donate. That's road, the number two, rediscovery.com/donate. We'll even give you a shout out in a future episode. And as always, there is no obligation. We are truly, truly grateful for your listenership. Thank you. All right. Now, to start off this episode, I have to say that, I may be wrong when I say this, but I've always viewed holistic peace, holistic peace as a three-legged stool. For the three legs, you have physical health, you have wellness, and you have financial health, right? These elements can also impact each other and ultimately the overall quality of your life. Well, my special guest is a major advocate for financial education for hundreds of thousands of families. He helps families learn how increasing their financial education can lead to a life of less stress while helping them understand the role finance plays in our well being. Let's get ready for a great conversation, ladies and gentlemen, and help me welcome Mr. Roberto Santiago to the show. Hey, Roberto, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, how you doing? Yeah, glad to be here.
All right, all right. Well, thank you. We are glad to have you here, man. So, if we can just start off by sharing with the listeners, just give us a glimpse of, where you're from and what was life like for Roberto growing up.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I actually grew up in Mexico,
Hmm.
and life was a struggle, just like in any other countries outside the U.S.
Hmm.
And if you're in the U.S., you gotta feel fortunate enough.
Hmm.
Sometimes you don't feel fortunate enough until you actually hear from other people's experiences. For me, at the age of 9, I had to literally cross the border and make it here. And
Hmm.
as I was crossing the border, I saw dead corpses, and
Oh my.
something hit me right in there, and I was like, I have to really make it big towards whatever I was going to.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
9 years old, you really don't know what you're doing, but
Mm,
it's intense.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, now I think I'm fulfilling my path to greatness, and what
Hmm.
I feel that my mission is. So
Very nice, very nice. So what originally got you into finances? Like, um, what is the earliest age, I guess, in your childhood or teens, that you were first introduced to finances? I mean, did you have a lemonade stand or, a child entrepreneur or anything? What was your introduction to finances at an early age?
you know, uh, I mean, from early age, we would always struggle with money. Not until recently, I found out like what the true story was after talking to my parents.
Right?
But yeah, no, we always struggle with money, and
Hmm.
basically for us was go to school, get the best education, and get a good job. And that's what I did. I ended up going to school, but before there, I hit a wall,
Mm,
and that was that even though I wanted to pursue a career education, one, there was no funds,
mhm.
and then second, the opportunity when you're not a legal citizen or legal resident is just more expensive, and then there's also less financial help. But from growing up, I always saw my mom and my dad. My mom was I guess, the brains in the financial situation. She was the
Mhm.
saver, and she was the one that actually learned how to take care of the few money that my that my dad brought home.
Right.
Uh, and then she learned this because she was a maid for several years for wealthy families back in Mexico City.
Yeah.
So she learned this, use those just trick and tips just to save money and take care of the things, like no matter how much it costs. She would always
Hmm.
bring that up on us, that you need to take care of the soap that you take a shower with, that you wash
Right.
your clothes. So
Right.
that was my understanding of money. And then my dad, for some reason, he never, now that I think about it, he never really said, what, we can't afford this, or um, that's too expensive.
Hmm.
He
Hmm.
never really said that. He really didn't say no to us. Somehow he would manage to have money. And I'm learning that as I'm growing up, where sometimes money is not much of how you make it, or how much you make, or how you spend it. Sometimes it's literally like the more you give, and the less importance you give it,
Yeah.
you actually, you make it last. And it's an interesting thing that I had to learn.
No, I can totally understand that, and just your mom being the example of how money is managed from the money that she makes, and then bringing that into her home in practicing money management. It's when you're young, there's a lot to learn and take in when it comes to finances. So, um, as a as in your profession, with finances and educating families on finances, um, I believe you feel that it's important for parents to teach their children about money and the importance of it and how you should treat it, and when it comes to making good decisions about it. How early would you recommend parents to start teaching their children about money?
I would say as early as 5 years old. Uh,
5 years old. Okay, good. Yeah, yeah. No, that's great. So when you work with these families, in your experience, what are some of the common misunderstandings that families have about money? That you have to kind of help them kind of guide and direct them to the understanding of it.
yeah, no, that's a great question. I would say it's the mindset. Um,
Mindset.
and one of the things, unfortunately, that we do,
Hmm.
we don't really get financial education in school anywhere, like anywhere in the world. There's no such thing as a financial education course. Um, we grow with the idea that making more money is the solution. But what
Hmm.
I actually teach families is how to change that mindset
Hmm.
from, you know, it's not necessarily you making more money. You just gotta pay yourself first
Right.
before your bills,
Okay.
before all your expenses. You gotta pay yourself first.
Mm.
And most people, majority of people, we are always worried about rent. We're always worried about bills,
Yeah.
having the
Yeah.
latest phone.
Mm.
Where if you just change that mindset of I'm the most expensive, or I'm the priority, my savings are a priority. I'm paying myself. I'm paying the future self of me.
Hmm.
Uh, it is just that little change that you just gotta make, that adjustment, and literally it works out. Where when you start realizing that even if it's $20 a week that you pay consistency to yourself
Hmm.
before worrying about eating now, before worrying about paying your phone or
Yeah.
other necessities. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's great. It's a little counterintuitive, but I can totally see how a shift in that mindset can really start you on the path to financial independence, financial freedom, financial responsibility, making yourself the priority, and like you said, see, sometimes I would think making yourself the priority to pay yourself first, can be misconstrued by some people, right? Some people may think, oh, okay, well. pay myself first, then that means, oh, okay, I'm going to buy me the nicest pair of shoes, or that new phone, right? Or I'm going to buy me a new iPad, a new tablet. It's like, no, we don't mean pay yourself first by that, right? We
Right.
mean pay yourself first by saving, investing. You're paying and you're investing in your own future by paying yourself first. That's what you mean by the priority. Is that right,
That
Roberto?
that is correct. Yeah,
Okay.
and see, that's the mindset that we gotta change because
Yes.
we think that paying ourselves means having the best house from your whole family,
Right.
best car from your friends,
Yeah.
having the latest phone. But unfortunately, like I said, it's a mindset game because a lot of times, a lot of people, I mean, in the media or everywhere, you just trying, people are trying to sell you,
Yeah, they are. They
trying to sell
really
you
are.
this car, they're trying to sell you the latest phone.
Yeah.
And what you gotta realize is that you gotta pay yourself first
Yes.
instead of paying others. You know,
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily that you have to have the best things. It's like I get a lot of because it's a mindset game. It's you have to change that mindset.
Yes.
A lot of people say like they don't understand it, so I kind of have to explain it where
Hmm.
you actually you cannot afford. People tell me I can't afford to save. And the thing is, you cannot not afford to save.
100%. Yes, sir.
You
That's
have,
right. I
you got
agree.
so first, and it's like a muscle. It's like a like when you go work out, like you don't start with weights that are 25 or 50 pounds. You start with
No,
10, and you slowly increase, right? So
that's right.
that's the mindset I have to change on people, and it's an interesting it's an interesting journey to do.
Oh, I bet it is, man. And I would imagine before you can do any additional work with with your client, changing that mindset is one of the beginning fundamental activities that needs to occur before you can proceed. Is that right?
That is the main fundamental, and until I actually sometimes I actually grab things like I could grab a
Mhm.
cup and I could grab like a pen, and
Mhm.
sometimes I have to paint the picture for people to actually see it, not
I
just
see.
tell them, but I
Yeah.
kind of have to
Yeah.
just use items on the table to be able to actually make them grasp that concept.
Hey, whatever it takes for them to understand and kind of wrap their arms around the concept and truly know what it means, right? Drawing diagrams, drawing pictures, having examples. One example you mentioned a minute ago was lifting weights, right? If you're going to start doing it for the first time, you don't go straight to the 50 pounds. You pick up the 5, the 10, and work with those, and over time work your way up. So no, that makes all kinds of sense. And it sounds like you have some good practices in how you switch or change that mindset in working with your clients. So thank you for sharing that, Roberto. I really appreciate it, man. So with me, okay, again, in my mind, uh, just the crazy way I think here, there are several topics that people are very, very skittish to talk about. You know, they're very apprehensive. And one of them is religion, um, the other is politics, and third is money, finances. So, when working with your clients, in your experience, um, have you had to break through that shell of of just taboo and nervousness that families would have when it comes to talking about money, not wanting to disclose everything because money's a private issue within a family. Has anyone gotten defensive about talking about their finances? What are some of the those uncomfortable feelings that your clients have had or that you've seen in working with your clients in the beginning with finances?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Um, and usually it's I try to sit down with both couple if they're married, you know.
Mhm.
Um, and usually, what I find now is the woman understands more when it comes to how it could actually affect not having a good financial structure
I see.
than male. And what I also experience is where, you know, you could you can't really talk about this subject without them trusting you.
Mhm.
And what I had to do for things to actually, for me to actually help my clients, sometimes I what I had to actually do is understand that that is a key conversation to have. Without that conversation, I take it very serious, because without me giving it my 100% on that conversation, without me
Right.
being completely honest and transparent with them,
Right.
uh, the chances of that family struggling financially or having a financial disaster in the future are pretty big,
Yeah.
and I take it very serious. So first thing, I have to kind of figure it out, ask questions.
Mhm.
What did this couple know about money?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's such a, yeah, like you said, it's a taboo subject, and
Mhm.
the more people actually think it's a taboo subject, is the harder it is to actually be able to help them understand, just the basic principles of financials.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, man. And there was one word you said that really rang in my ears in a good way, and that's transparency, right? Being having full transparency in what you are sharing with your clients, and just allowing them the space to be transparent with you. So, it's hard to help someone if they're not giving you all the information that you need to help them. I'm sure those are some tough conversations, and there's some obstacles in getting around, helping your clients get around that awkward feeling, that feeling of discomfort, to where you can start to do some amazing work, right?
Yeah, no, yeah,
Yeah,
I had to learn the hard way. As I started,
yeah,
it wasn't as easy to uncover that.
yeah.
And I found out that just being completely honest, listen,
Mhm,
I was in a worse situation,
mhm.
and I didn't grow up learning all these concepts, but literally has changed my life. And just just trying to let them know that I wasn't born an expert
Mhm.
or a professional. I just try to suit the conversation a bit, and then
Mhm.
you start to see. And a lot of times I hear people talk about money. When I ask them, what did you learn about money growing up,
Mhm.
it's such a negative, just it
Yeah.
just turns into a negative subject. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, well, we need to, we need to acknowledge this and see how we could help, because money is not a lot of things that people think it is. It has its
No.
positive attributes, and the more you actually understand it, the more you actually see those.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree, and at face value, a lot of people will tend to think, okay, if I just had this much money, I would be happy. I mean, it's really, you think you might be happy? It's not the fact of having money that makes you happy. At least in my mind, it's what you do with it. It's how it supports your quality of living and providing for your family. It's supposed to be a tool, right?
Right.
Not something that you spend lavishly, not something that you hoard and don't help or give for others.
Right.
um, I was watching the Today Show this morning, and they were talking about a gentleman who goes around, I believe it was New York City, giving random acts of kindness. Okay, just it may be going to a stranger or a homeless person, giving them $100, or it may be paying for someone's coffee. Just different acts of random kindness. And he had a quote that I shamelessly wanted to borrow to share in this conversation. Excuse me. He
Right.
said, he said, You'll never go broke when you give. And that speaks volumes to me, man. Does that make sense? You never go broke when you give.
Yeah, no, and it's
Mhm,
true. And
mhm,
an
mhm,
example I could give, to the public is,
mhm.
think about Google. I mean,
Yeah,
when Google first started, it was a free engine. Like, yes, you had Yahoo and you had AOL, but
right.
full of advertisements, and they were full of, they wanted to charge you, and all
Yes.
they cared was about making money. Well, Google struggled at first.
Yeah.
They didn't even know how they were gonna make money.
Mm-mm.
They just focus on giving value. They just focus on giving free stuff. Just use my search engine. You're gonna find good content. And now look at the Google boys, right? They're
Mhm.
billionaires.
Oh, they are. They
And
are huge.
it just goes to show that into perspective, right? That
Yes.
it is, the more you give, the more you get, and
100%.
you could just apply it, wherever you're in life, whatever your job is. If
Mhm,
you give it joyfully,
mhm.
you're also gonna receive more.
You are completely. I mean, and that's just how things work out in this universe. Again, in my heart of hearts, the way from what I believe, that's how this universe works. And we have a fiscal responsibility, I believe, to to help others when we are in a position where we are secure financially, we provide, and we have the means. So if we're doing fine, anything over that to keep is just foolish. When you can help someone else. Now, that doesn't mean don't keep it or don't save. I mean, like you said earlier, you want to, be a priority to yourself and invest in yourself and save, put some money away and save, but also, help someone else who may be struggling or give and give freely and happily, right?
That's correct. I would say
Mm.
that a lot of books or a lot of people don't talk about this concept much, but
Right.
it really, um, giving is such an investment. I mean, the more you give, the more you get,
Yes. Yes.
and a lot of times we don't believe that. We actually
Hmm.
think that's not true. But I mean, I just give you an example. But
Hmm.
you just practice it. Sometimes we have to see it for ourselves in order to actually, accept it
Yeah.
and own it. So I would invite everyone to start doing that. If you
Yeah.
have dollars, and even if it's just $10 in your bank account,
Hmm.
find a way to give $2, and then you start seeing miracles. And you touch a great point, right? That's how the universe works. This is not me making it up, or this is not me
No.
actually just wanting you try it out, and you'll see how that's how the law works.
Absolutely. And that's one of two things I believe when it comes to this topic, Roberto, is that's how the universe works when you give. Another thing I truly believe is as human beings, we are inherently wired for two things: to connect and interact with each other, look and feel, touch, and to give to each other, to be of service to someone who needs help. And there's some chemical reaction in our brains that makes us feel good when we give to someone. You know, and it's when you try it, like you said, you challenge someone to try it and see what happens, that that is an immediate feeling after giving that I receive at least once I give. I don't give and wait for something to come to me in return. I mean, I just go about life and it happens. But the feeling in my heart and in my brain that I feel from that chemical reaction from giving for giving to someone is, to me, it's tremendous, and it makes you happier overall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I would add something that Abraham Hicks mentions,
Hmm.
and it's completely true, and I've done it for myself.
Yeah.
Uh, she mentions that sometimes we actually, either pray or ask for things,
Hmm.
and we become desperate, or we become, we self-doubt
Yeah.
sometimes that these things are going to happen to us. Well,
Yeah.
she says that the best thing you could do to accelerate the process is to actually start giving. Just focus on doing
Yes.
random acts of kindness. It doesn't necessarily
Yes.
have to give money, and
Yes.
you'll accelerate the process. And it is so true, and divinely designed that way.
Yes. 100%. I totally agree. So, Roberto, I want to talk about um, I want to talk about how um, financial health and financial education contributes or has an effect on our well-being. Okay, but before we do that, I want to ask you, if you reflect back on your life. Okay, reflect back 20 years ago. Um, what is the one thing about finances, concept, fact, whatever? What is the one thing about finances that you know now that you wish you knew 20 years ago?
Yeah, I would say that you know you gotta pay yourself first.
Pay yourself first. Love it. Love it. Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Um, and now that you know that, you're helping people by teaching that to them, so they don't have to wait 20 years, you know, to
Yeah,
uh to understand that. So that's, man, that's awesome. That is wonderful.
sure.
All right, man. So, Roberto, can we talk about how the connection between financial education and managing your finances responsibly, can you help us bridge that gap between financial responsibility and well-being? How does one help the other?
Yeah, I think that's a that's a great question. I would say that if you are financially well, I mean, it starts with you
Hmm.
in a good state of mind.
Yes.
I've heard this before, and not until like I started getting success, I understand it. But
Hmm.
it's true. It all starts within the mind. You gotta really believe that you deserve things.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of times, in general, this
Hmm.
would happen to me, is that you would feel unworthy of having things. You would even affirm
Yeah.
it to yourself by saying, "No, I can't afford that."
Hmm. Hmm.
If you just change the mindset of thinking about your well-being, like, don't just see things as, oh, either I cannot afford them or they're expensive.
Hmm.
Is, well, what am I gonna do to deserve them? You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
how can I deserve it? And well-being, I think it touches into three principles.
Hmm.
It's really your body. One, you got to take care of your body. You got to take
Right.
care of your emotions.
Yes.
And the other thing is you got to take care of your mindset, right? Because a lot of times we might be really good emotionally, but in our mindset is like, I had to learn this the hard way. If you don't dominate your mind, it will
Hmm.
dominate you.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, that's the case for a lot of us, that we let the mind dominate us for so many years.
Hmm. Hmm.
We don't we don't even realize that there's a constant fight between the mind and between us, who
Mm.
we are, who divinely beings who we are, that we could have everything we want, that we deserve to have everything we want, and our creator wants us to have everything we want. And our mind sometimes just basically puts us in this prison where we don't even know it exists. We limit ourselves. And
Mm. Mhm.
what I had to do is I had to learn how to take control of myself, to be able to calm down my mind and be in this, switch the perspective. Now I'm the master. You're my obedient. And when my mind starts wandering with negative things, right away I could stop it. I could recognize it and I could stop it and say, uh, things are gonna get better. We're getting better all the time, getting better all the time.
Mhm. Mhm.
So all these things, I would say that play a huge role in your financials because what I understand now is that by me having a budget, I try to respect that budget.
Mhm.
That's the way I respect my body, the same
Mhm.
way I respect my emotions. Uh,
Mhm. Mhm.
so and going back to the mind, also the same thing. I'm very careful with what I listen to, who I listen to, and what kind of um, just what kind of information I give to other people,
Yeah.
including my
Yeah.
kids.
No, I totally agree. I mean, life is short, right? And so, we have to be very critical on what we listen to and who we listen to. And I think every effort to listen to someone or something must contribute to some value towards growth or learning, you know. And if it's something that you're not really learning or growing from, then is it worth listening to it? Or a person who just chastises you all the time, is it worth listening to them? Are they going to contribute to your growth? So I think you hit the nail right on the head, man. I mean, that's another part of just how wellness and finances tie over, and kind of relate to each other. I love the example you mentioned as far as respecting your body, okay, and treating your body, and maintaining your body in a certain way to where it's optimal. That's the same as what you would do with a budget. You would respect the budget, maintain the budget, and keep the budget optimal, as well as nurture your mindset. So thank you so much for sharing how those two relate, man. I know the listeners were really waiting for that correlation. So yeah, I really appreciate that. So Roberto, how can the listeners connect with you and learn more about the work that you're doing in educating families in finances?
Yeah, actually, I have an Instagram page where I do more of self development, and
Hmm.
whether you want to accept it or not, I believe it has to start there. When you're in when your well being, is aligned, and when your well being is, healthy, then we can start talking about finances. Until
Yes.
recently, I started creating content um, towards finance, and you can find me on TikTok as um, it's what is called Dinero Class
Uh,
101. So
okay.
I'm so it's Dinero like in Spanish, and then
Yeah.
Class 101
Okay.
on TikTok, and then on Instagram you can find me as Master Santiago, where there is more of self development.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things I do on that is bring the ancient knowledge that we have. Um, I bring it from the Aztec culture, but it applies everywhere. This knowledge. It's around worldwide, and I use it's
Hmm.
really nature, and just teach people how to integrate that knowledge with their well being. And, that's,
Yeah, yeah. No, I understand that. Man, thank you for sharing that. We're going to put your TikTok and your Instagram handles on the episode show notes, so the listeners, as they're listening to this episode, they can connect with you and follow you on Instagram. They can connect with you and follow you on TikTok, and we'll make sure we have all those there. So.
yeah.
Wow, Roberto, man, I really enjoyed this conversation. We got to learn a bit about you and where you come from, your journey, how you got turned on to finances, and we learned about the great work you're doing. Thank you for sharing your insights, on the show about finances, about mindset, right, and changing that mindset on instead of like paying everything out first. You pay yourself, and clarifying what paying yourself means. It's saving and investing, not buying the latest shoes or the big fancy gold watch, right?
That's correct.
Oh, fantastic. Roberto, man, thanks for coming on the show. I would love for us to stay in touch, man, and maybe in the next 8 or 9 months, bring you back on the show, give the listeners an update with what's going on with the great work that you're doing.
Yeah, yeah, my pleasure. No, well, thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. No, thank you, man. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in and listening. And listen, if you have a loved one or a colleague, family member, if you have someone you know who seems to be going through a tough time, at the end of their rope, not quite sure where to turn, and they're just waddling through dark days of despair, I humbly ask that you please share this show with them, because on the road to rediscovery, we want our listeners to know two things. Number one, you're not alone. And number two, there is always hope. The road to rediscovery, it's a movement, a revolution. And guess what? You are now part of it. We're all roadies on this journey of life, and it sure feels good having you on the road with me. Thanks again for listening. We'll chat again soon. We really hope you enjoyed this episode of The Road to Rediscovery. We'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email at roadtorediscoverypodcast@gmail.com and leave us any questions or comments you may have. The Road to Rediscovery is an AJ Shark production.